So welcome everyone to our April podcast. This is a very special month for us. First of all, because all of you who listeners of Brainstorms know that I do not like winter and that I'm always ready for spring. I'm always ready for April because April always signifies a renewal or a rebirth, which is why I believe that Easter is celebrated so often there, in the Christian faith being that of the divine resurrection, the resurrection of Christ. In the secular term, resurrection does mean bringing yourself back to life. And that happens with everyone with a traumatic brain injury. There is a moment when you think you're never going to get back to any life whatsoever, let alone the life you had. You pretty much make it back to a new normal, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, I want to thank my wonderful, wonderful crew here at Sycamore Studios in Plain City, Ohio. And I want to thank the Fred and Jim MacMurray Foundation, who so generously donates for these podcasts. These podcasts are for not just our veterans and their families, but also it's for the civilian world. We are trying to make that bridge between military and civilian. And I've got to say that my guest today, I don't even know how to describe Captain James McCormick, because my first introduction to him was quite memorable. One of the men who had worked with him when I was volunteering at the VA, in fact, one of my last days at the VA, mentioned to me, he says, you know who you really need, Doc, because you really need to know more about the military. You need to meet Captain James McCormick. He's just the greatest. He's just the greatest. And this is shortly after an incident that he'll be telling us about today. And I said, okay, well, how can I meet him? And he goes, well, just go get a magazine. He's on the cover of the Fortune, the Soldier of Fortune magazine. I'm thinking, I can get the magazine. First of all, I didn't know there was such a magazine. Okay. Secondly, I didn't know that I could just go to the grocery store and get it. Though I did find out later that day when I went there, and literally 4 cashiers were pulling out every Soldier of Fortune magazine we had so that I could see Captain McCormick. And from that, I remember kind of just cold contacting him and getting an immediate response. And he is very, very responsible for every single thing that we've done in Resurrecting Lives Foundation, from the diagnosis and showing where the brain injury was from IED to the book that's now coming out, Guarding Our Guardians, of which he is a major part of. In fact, the first military person you're going to hear from in that book is going to be Captain McCormick. So we'll talk a little bit about his service and his many honors in a moment, but I can see him. He's getting ready to go ahead and speak here. And let me tell you, he's where I always find him, in his car, going from point A, where he just completed a task, to point B. He is currently the Veterans Affairs Director of the Vietnam Veterans of America. And with no further ado, I want to welcome one of my greatest heroes, Cap McCormick.
Well, it's such an honor, and I give you great thanks, and of course we give God great thanks for our ability to be here together, and for this connection. It's a God thing. Every time that you think about it, people may not want to dwell on that, but I really am focused on my faith.
Yes.
And I think that has been the single most important thing that's got me through a lot of this. So I work with veterans, and I have ever since I retired from the Army in 2009. Steve Mikes was the gentleman that you worked with. He was a platoon sergeant of mine.
Yes.
An exceptional soldier,
Yes.
very exceptional platoon that he led over there. And I can always say good things. And I'll tell you, we have this group of us that for the last 20 plus years, we've stayed connected via text and emails and
wonderful.
phone calls. And I know that if anybody's feeling down or feeling bad, they'll shoot an email. It could be 1 o'clock in the morning, and you have this collaboration of these old soldiers that fought in a war together, that we drop everything we're doing so that we can help one of our brothers that may be in some sort of a crisis.
Right.
We've grown older. We've learned to say things like, hey, I love you, man, and stuff like that. It's been really good to be able to get to that point in your life.
Yes.
And then, of course, I have a strong family. that supports me, my wife Heather. I wrote a book called Battle Tested Faith, and the whole last chapter, as my son Preston tells me, he says that's just a love story between you, about you and mom.
Wonderful.
And and I'm like, yeah, that is true,
Yes.
but it's a beautiful love story,
Yes.
how we met, and how all of that transpired over the years. And here we are now, 20 plus years later, 8 kids, 12 grandchildren,
Wow. Wow.
um, you know, went from never growing hair on my face to now look at me now with a beard and everything.
Right. Right.
The gray around the muzzle, it's really getting more prominent, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I love what I do, and I love people.
Well, and it
And thank you
shows.
for having me,
Oh
Chris
no,
Ann.
it
Really, I
really
appreciate
shows.
you.
And I want to bring up that Stephen Mikes was my last patient at the VA. The VA kind of had a little bit of issue with the statistics of the patients that I was seeing doing the second level traumatic brain injury. Of which I say God always makes it very easy for me, because I saw 100 patients there, 100 male patients from Ohio. 85 of them had traumatic brain injury. I mean, documented. The thing that was so amazing to me, Captain, because remember, I met you after that. I knew nothing before I went in there. Most of them had 5 to 8 blast injuries. I mean, there was nobody
Yeah.
who had less than 5. And Stephen Mikes, very shortly thereafter, and he attributes a lot of it to your leadership, was named a member of the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. So,
Yeah,
not
good
only
man.
are you a leader, but you produce other leaders as well. And he is the person that got us together. But when he said the Soldier of Fortune magazine, to me it sounded, I said, is that in the sci-fi section? And he said, no, but it should be. So, and when you when you tell your story, we're going to know why. I wanted to
Yeah.
mention something, because you are a soldier, and one of the greatest soldiers that I've met. You've had more awards than I could really see. You've been the recipient of not just one, but a couple Silver Crosses and Bronze Stars with Valor. And for the people
Yeah.
who don't know what all of that means, and what 3 Purple Hearts, I believe, I mean, tell us a little bit about that, because when people say, oh, he won the Silver Star, I said, no, he didn't win it. He earned it.
No. Yeah.
So if you could
Yeah.
explain a little bit, because you're so good at explanations.
Yeah. So the Silver Star is the nation's third highest award for valor.
Okay.
I was originally recommended for the Distinguished Service Cross, and then they even kicked around the Medal of Honor, and there's
Right.
been discussion about that for an upgrade. But I'm just a country boy from West Virginia. I'm good with what I got. We're happy. God takes care of us. I never went into it about the medals, and maybe that's why they just kept coming. I don't know. Um,
No, I think your service record, and I think the audience is about to hear your Easter story here, which is why you were
yeah,
just the perfect person to have for our April podcast. But I mean, these are earned sometimes with a life. I mean, the person
yeah,
who earns that distinguished award actually perishes in the process. And yours could
I've
have
seen
easily
that.
been
Yeah,
that. It could have been that. But I wanted to touch on the fact that not only do you have like that list, but you also came back and got your Doctor of Divinity, correct?
hmm yeah,
So
absolutely.
your cat and
Praise the
doctor,
Lord.
yeah. I mean, tell us just a little bit about that mission, because I think what you and your wife do in
hmm
bringing the community together, and the sense of community, is very important. So if you could just mention a little bit about that, we'll get to the story about Easter
Sure.
2004. But
So whenever I came back, I totally left the military, and um, I figured out, well, what am I going to do now? What am I going to be? Because I've always been a something,
yeah,
and I think that's the hardest part of transition. You got to figure out what you want to do.
yeah,
And then, because of that incident that happened around Easter weekend, I made a promise to God, and I had to keep that promise. And that promise was to serve him, to do whatever it is that he wanted me to do. And I always felt this calling to be a bridge builder, to help people. So when Heather and we got together, we met in church, a little church called the Hurricane Bible Church
Oh,
in
okay.
Hurricane, West Virginia. And the pastor there was very interested in me. He remembered me as a child. I wasn't a good church attender when I was a kid. I'll just tell you, it was I was a little rough around the edges, but I came back a totally changed and a different person,
Hmm.
both physically and mentally.
Okay.
So the mental part of that was the most difficult, where you have to figure out, you know, there's something different about me. It's
Right.
I don't see things the way everybody else sees things. But going into that church and feeling that relationship with God, um, knowing that I had a deep and close personal relationship with Jesus Christ, our Savior, I'm going to tell you, um, I could have died so many times, you know what I
I
mean?
bet.
But the one thing that God put over me was a lack of fear of death.
Oh, wow.
And that
Okay.
was
Yeah.
very, very difficult to overcome, because for the first 3 or 4 months you're there, you're constantly worried about somebody shooting you, or
Right.
getting blown up, or um, and once you get into that situation and you get shot, or you get you know some sort of a blast, um, it wasn't that you're not scared, it's that the fear doesn't prevent you from doing what you need to do.
Oh, that's
And so you feel
important.
that close relationship with God. So coming back, I went into training. Um, and it was tough. It was tough, but I'd already had, some education, but Bible school education and Bible college education's totally different.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Learning the scriptures, not just to repeat them or to be able to recite them, but to understand what they mean. And more importantly, to be able to explain them to other people.
Right.
And I was looking at this and I'm thinking, what a great way to help people deal with PTSD, because it helped me.
Right. Right.
The other thing I liked is I liked working in the soil. I liked farming. I liked, raising bees and growing gardens. And
Okay.
so probably for the first 4 years after I got out, retired, um, we ran a program called Veterans and Warriors to Agriculture. And I actually wrote legislation that was passed in the West Virginia State House.
Amazing.
And we established the West Virginia Veterans and Warriors to Agriculture program. And
Amazing.
it was all designed about veterans and people that are currently serving in the National Guard and Reserve, because I think that's an often left out population.
Right.
But that's who was fighting the bulk of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan,
Oh, that's
was a lot
amazing.
of Guard and Reserve troops.
Okay.
So um, it was an incredible experience. It took quite a few years. It took a lot of study. I had a hard time with memorization, because of
Because of your
um,
injuries, yes. I
yeah.
mean, yeah.
And but I had a great wife and a partner, and friends, and a great pastor that mentored me through this process.
Mhm.
And I finally got through that process. It actually took, I'm going to say, 7 years
Okay.
total, because by the time you go through it and you go through your training and you write your papers, and then you go before the committee and you present. So I wrote this entire script on why, the power of prayer and the
Mm-hmm.
relationship with God is the most powerful tool that we have for our returning service members. And we need to focus more on the chaplain corps, and
That's
we need to
true.
be a little more focused on, not preventing someone from speaking about their faith. We went through that period of time in the military
Right.
that kind of challenged
Mm-hmm.
um, the institution, but I think it's back now, and I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see more of a focus on that, on
Well,
faith. I think you'll get a lot more productivity.
And you have influenced us on this. I mean, our podcast last year, we had a gentleman from Tennessee. He reminded me a lot of you in that exact thing. He was a Vietnam veteran who said the exact same thing you did. And he is promoting the veteran-friendly congregations, throughout the state of Tennessee, which was really good. And the second thing is, we just had our kind of TBI Awareness Month podcast was about agritherapy. So you have really influenced me. Do you mind telling our audience what the name was of your program? Because I've got to tell you, I remember going online and reading one of your emails, and it's early in the morning, and I've just got my coffee, and I literally choked on the coffee. I started laughing so hard. What was the name? Your illustrious name of your...
Raising Cane Farms.
And you
But
actually
it was
raised
Raising
sugarcane.
Cane Farms Ministry, Inc.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. And we had a couple of our vets who went down there, took a look at it as well. I mean, quite the
Yeah.
amazing thing. Okay, so...
Yeah, we really had a great time. We had at one time, I mean, I could show you pictures of classes that we had. The beekeeping classes were by far the most productive.
Oh, really?
Literally thousands of veterans over a period of 5 or 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Some of them coming from all the way out in California.
Oh, to
Just so
West
that they
Virginia.
could experience the free class.
To almost
And
heaven.
we would give them 2 beehives as well.
Wow. Oh, you really would? And then they take it back
absolutely.
and propagate. Oh, wow. All righty. So we have this incredible post-military life. And you're the first person that I've started with the post. Okay. Most people we kind of go through and work through. But what I wanted to do is to do that because when they hear your Easter story, I think they'll be shaking their heads like, how did this all happen? So what else do you want to say about your post? And then we're going to go to, what led you to be on the corner, the cover of the Soldier of Fortune magazine. And you were kind of there, like I knew who you were just by the picture, because standing out in front was this presence of a stocky guy that just, you don't go any further. I mean, you just have that charisma about you.
That whole experience, I would say, shaped me into the man that I am today.
Okay.
And I'm thankful for that because I've ran into people and a lot of veterans and people that everybody runs into people that are just nasty. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And that experience taught me patience and taught me not to just strike out, not to just be physical.
Okay.
But during that entire time period, it really started on Thursday.
Okay, let's talk.
So
we've got Holy Thursday. You're where? Set the stage for it's your story, not mine.
So I had been wounded on March the 21st of 2004.
Okay.
So I was off the road primarily because of being shot in the leg.
Primarily.
Primarily, yeah. I mean, there were other things too.
I was gonna say, okay.
Yeah. And everything just started to come in, and I watched this, all the intel reports, and I said, it's going to get nasty out there on the road. And I remember looking at my captain, and he said, there's a convoy of ammunition that's going out and supplies that's got to get up into Baghdad. And looked at him. I said, all you got to do is take my choke chain off, which is my
your orders to be,
my profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, I'm here because of a physical profile. I said, but you can break that, and I can break that. And I remember doing this. I said, and he said, well, let me think about it. And I walked across the compound, and I looked at him, and I went click, and then he went click, and he told me to come over.
Okay.
And when he came over, he introduced me to a guy named Sergeant, and these were all Ohio National Guard.
Right.
transportation people. And Sergeant Groover was the convoy commander, and I just can't say enough good about the 1486th
Okay.
and the 1487th transportation companies.
Thank you.
Most of
Right.
these were really just good kids from you know Midwestern Ohio
Right.
upbringing, um, and they were just country boys and girls. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they were all there. And so when he talked to me, he looked at me and he said, we need some gun support going up into Baghdad. It's going to probably get ugly. And, he said, we heard that you kick butt, but he didn't say butt.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And, and would you be willing to do that? And I said, absolutely. And I got up and,
On your
you got to
wounded
remember,
leg.
it
On
wasn't
your
too
wounded
long ago.
leg. Did you have a
Yeah. Yeah. I
gunshot
mean,
wound?
I had a bullet,
Yeah.
two bullet fragments removed from my leg, and
Okay.
probably, I don't know, dozen, 13 stitches. I can't remember. It's been a while. But uh, I said, I want to pick my own crew. And so I did. I went around and I picked specific people that I had been watching in that compound
Okay.
that really had skills that I needed. So I picked Brian Noble. I picked Ralph Blue, who was a former Marine infantryman from Florida. Brian Noble was from Ohio. He was from Eaton, Ohio.
Mm.
And then I picked Brandon Lawson, who had been working as basically the first sergeant's driver.
Okay.
But he was a tough kid. I mean, he was tough. And I told him, I said, I want to take you three. I said, we're going to take our Humvee and we're going to cut a hole in the top of it because we didn't have a Cruiser 50 caliber machine gun. I said, but I'm going to get one.
Oh,
And they're like,
okay.
well, where are you going to get a 50 caliber machine gun? Well, just so happened, and this is a God thing here as well, the 201st Field Artillery from West Virginia was in that base camp.
Oh,
And I
wow.
knew they had plenty of 50 caliber machine guns and ammunition. So I went over to their captain, Captain Setzer was his name, and a Sergeant First Class Peacock was
Okay.
there. And I said, guys, I need a 50 cal machine gun worse than a dead man needs a casket.
Oh, whoa. Well, there you go. That's West Virginia talking to West Virginia. Okay.
Yeah, and they said, well, come on over. And I went over. They gave me the machine gun. They gave me the mount where I could mount
Okay.
it in the
Okay.
center of the vehicle. And we literally went into the motor pool. And now we had a motor sergeant that was down there he was just a jerk. There's no other way to put it. And
Okay.
he didn't want to give us the tools to cut the hatch out.
Okay.
And he didn't like us modifying the Humvee. And, now my driver, Brian Noble, was 6'4". He looks like a Viking. I mean, he's
Okay.
just a massive man. And I said, if he comes over here and starts anything, I said, we're going to go get that equipment. I said, I'm going to give you permission to beat him to a pulp
Oh,
to stop him from
oh.
stopping us because we have a mission we have to accomplish.
Yeah.
And this guy was literally, he didn't care. He didn't care about, what was coming.
Yeah.
So he happened to not be there in the motor pool. So I went over to a young kid. His name was Josh Bratton. Now, Josh Bratton is a mechanic that was working in the motor pool, and he was very young.
Okay.
I said, Bratton, go get me a Sawzall and the tools that I need. And I told him what I'm going to do. He said, don't tell the motor sergeant that I gave these to you. um, and so, we did what we had to do. And I tell you this story because there's so many people that provided for us, that God laid out a pathway, and you'll see why we needed that 50 caliber machine
Right,
gun
right.
later in the story.
If we could
So we
get
get
a
everything
little
set
bit
up.
further in the story to around that, Easter, if you could kind of build it up. So we
Yeah.
get that it was a mess, and
Oh, it was
somehow you
terrible.
had a premonition that it was going to get worse, which is, I think, one of the most important things. And what they brought out in the Soldier of Fortune article too was very much
Yeah.
that. Your instincts. They said this guy's got the greatest instincts. Well, what is instinct? But understanding signals you're getting from the other side, the other world that kind of coexists with ours, right? I mean, that's what you were doing. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you develop that sixth sense. So we're
yes,
all into Baghdad at this time, and the
okay,
first thing that we experienced was a massive ambush going into Baghdad International Airport.
just getting there.
Just getting there. When we first got there, we got caught in what I would consider to be the most well planned L-shaped ambush I've ever been in
Oh,
my life. Now, this wasn't my first combat rodeo,
okay,
but it definitely was one that we were fighting people that were very skilled. Um, um, Brandon Lawson got shot in the thigh early in that battle,
okay,
and we had several people that were wounded. I ended up getting shot in the hand and the chest. I took a bullet to my ballistic vest, and I
okay.
literally had a bullet ricochet off of my helmet.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, we get through this terrible firefight.
Okay,
Um, we immediately go to the hospital,
okay,
which was actually an aid station set up by the 5th Special Forces Group.
okay,
And I can't say enough good about their people in the SF community. They were very good to us. Their medical personnel were just fabulous.
okay,
If you look at the work that they were able to do, the lives that they saved, and the professionalism that they showed during that whole event, the care, they didn't treat us any differently. They treated us like we were their brothers,
mm,
and it was a good experience. But once we got there, they sent us over to the green zone, and we got treated again. They pulled, they sewed us up. They sent us back.
okay.
So
If
Good Friday comes along, and they have ambushes going on all around the camp.
okay,
The roads are what they call black. You can't go
okay,
anywhere, and we ended up staying there. We got mortared a few times. There were a few events that happened in the campsite that you can read about in the book. But um, the next day was Easter Sunday,
okay,
and everybody's just sitting around. It's getting later during the day. They're going to have an Easter lunch,
okay,
and it just seemed really peaceful. And at that time, around 11 o'clock, we started hearing small arms fire. And I told my soldiers, I said, let's turn on the sheriff's freak, which was you could listen to all the emergency calls from convoys.
oh, okay,
Well, we knew there was an attack going on outside the gate, and and that's what it was, a convoy ambush.
okay.
And in my mind, I started to look around. I said, this place is eerily silent.
Oh, really? You had
And
that gut feeling again? Yeah.
yeah, it's eerily silent. Um, they're attacking this convoy outside the gate. We watch a helicopter come out, and we watch the helicopter get shot down outside the gate. And at
Oh,
that time,
oh,
I told my driver, I said, let's mount up. Let's see if we can get out to try to give those guys support, because you're listening to people on the radio calling for help. They're
okay,
needing backup.
okay,
And when we got to the gate, they wouldn't let us out the gate. And I didn't, I argued with them for a little bit, but there's no arguing to get out of a gate. They had a armored vehicle parked in front. You couldn't get through it. We couldn't go around it, or we would
okay,
have.
okay. Yeah, I'll bet.
Um,
Okay,
so they said, you need to go back to your area. said there's some enemy activity around the area. And I looked over this wall. I'm standing up in the 50 cal mount, and I'm looking out, and I see all this grass out there in the field, and it's it's April, so believe it or not, they have a lot of crops and a lot of cane that they were
Oh, I
growing out
didn't know
there.
that. April in the desert. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's around Baghdad, so you're in the
Okay.
Euphrates River Valley in that
Yeah. Okay.
beautiful
Gotcha.
area. It's lush and it's green.
Okay.
And as we're driving back, that's whenever I started to hear, the first explosion from an RPG round.
Okay.
And then I looked at my down at my driver. I said, "Hold up!" I slammed my hand on the top of the Humvee, and we looked. There's a ramp that they usually had a security vehicle that drove up on and did overwatch and protected the compound.
Okay.
So there was nobody up there.
Oh, okay.
So I told my driver, I said, we're going to drive up on the ramp, and there was a guy in the tower, and he said, hold up, wait a minute before we drive up. And then small arms fire hit that guard tower
Uh,
and just splintered it. And I told Noble to drive up. When we drove up, I can remember seeing all these enemy soldiers out in this field, and there were just dozens and dozens of them. There wasn't just a couple. There were 50 plus at least, and they were all dressed in black. Um, they were they were moving with a purpose. They were given commands. You could see that there was some organizational structure out there. It wasn't just a bunch of local hillbillies that were out there
right.
attacking the camp.
Right.
And they were trying to blow a hole in the wall. And when I looked down, we saw where people had already gotten close to the wall, and they had either a satchel or some kind of explosives,
I see.
and one of them detonated.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a fight for our life at that point, because you've got all of these soldiers that are in the camp. The camp was full, and for at least the first 10 minutes, it was me and that crew on the Zebra gun truck
Okay.
holding off. I don't know how many. I just remember shooting a can of 50 caliber ammunition, changing out the can, shooting another can. I mean, it was just like,
Yeah, chaos. It's just,
it was
and people don't
absolute
realize
chaos.
this. We
Yeah,
think of, I mean, the civilian world sees drone attacks. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And I would just
yeah,
like to interject that while you're going through all of this, we're
yeah,
going to church, we're having
yeah,
ham, we're meeting with her, and we think that war doesn't happen on the holidays, right? I mean, we're always
yeah.
shocked to hear that somebody was attacked, but your whole day kind of, if you could kind of
I'm going to
compress the
condense it
day.
down. Yeah,
Yeah.
the after defending the camp, we spent about 35 minutes in that battle, locked in, and of course, we beat them back. And it was not more than 15, 20 minutes after that, they said, well, we got to clear this camp out, and we got to get some ammunition and supplies over to the green zone. And I knew that Route Irish was bad. It's always been bad.
Okay.
And
That's
they
the
said,
name
well,
of
we
it?
need we need
Irish Green Zone? Is that what that means? I don't know what that means. Yes?
Yeah, the green zone was a campsite over in the center of Baghdad. It was
Okay.
actually a very large area for Americans.
Okay.
And then you had Route Irish, as they named each one of the routes going
I
in and
see.
out. But Route Irish
Okay.
was it was bad. So I got with a guy named Lieutenant Danforth, and
Lieutenant
Danforth,
Dan. We know that name. Okay. Go ahead.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Lieutenant Danforth, and I said, I'll take care of security. You take care of getting the convoys together. And so we did, and I I cobbled together 3 gun trucks,
Oh, wow.
and I said, we're going to have to break this down. We can't defend more than 14 trucks at a time, just
Okay.
because of the heavy fire.
Okay.
And when we got ready to leave out the gate, we were uh, we were the wolf in the pack. So our
Oh,
Humvee was scooting around, driving around the convoy between the trucks, I mean, we were hunter killer type, you
Okay.
know, and so you got to remember, I've got a whole crew, and everybody's been wounded at that point. Everybody has
Oh,
been
wow.
wounded,
And you've been wounded three
at least
times. Three
once.
times. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And some of us twice, and
Yeah.
some of us three times.
Yeah.
Um, and and as we're driving through, we're out the gate maybe half a mile. We started taking gunfire. We started taking RPG fire.
Okay.
So we fought through a gauntlet that was at least 2.5 miles long of a steady
Oh, two and a
attack
half
from the
miles.
enemy.
Oh,
Yeah, two
wow.
and a
That
half miles.
that must have seemed like
Yeah.
going, I
Well,
mean, thousands of
they were
miles.
shooting
I
at us
mean,
from buildings, trucks,
oh,
buses.
oh, wow.
Um, they tried to hit our convoy with a V-bed, which is a vehicle-borne IED.
Yes, right, right.
Um,
Oh,
so that was the first run. So when we got to the green zone, we took it back. We took them in, and the truck driver stayed there and
okay.
unloaded the crew and unloaded.
Okay. And
Well, then we get on the radio and said, "Well, can you come back and pick up another convoy of 14?" Well, we didn't realize, but they had 4 convoys set up for us that day. So
oh, wow.
there was only one way back and one way in. So we had to take the same
Same
route back
route.
through, fight our way back through.
Oh,
Nearly
Camp
ran out of
McCormick.
ammunition. Picked up the second convoy, and this ambush was even worse. And I remember one of the trucks was actually hit by an RPG that didn't explode.
Oh,
Um,
whoa. Again.
yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
This is all on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And when we would get back, we got through this, ran the same gauntlet of fire. We get to the green zone, and, I'm like, you guys, we got to go back. And they're like, are you kidding? I said, no, we got to go back. We got to go back, pick up another convoy. And by this time, everybody's convinced we're just going to die.
Oh,
I mean, we're just going to die.
absolutely right. You're not going to
Um,
do it twice. I mean, you barely made it through once, and now they're saying,
yeah. Yeah, we
wow.
went through the second time. Now we're going back
Yeah.
to pick up the third convoy. Again, small arms fire, not as much.
Okay.
But when we picked up the convoy and came back through on the third time, that's when they tried to hit us with a vehicle-borne IED, and a bus. They tried to get a
Oh,
bus to
wow.
block the
That's
convoy. So everybody was engaged fighting for their life.
right.
And we got the trucks in to the green zone. And then that radio started crackling again.
Mm.
And they said, red one, that was my call sign, red one, red one. You got enough ammo to make one more run today.
Oh, my goodness. So, I've heard
Yeah,
this story before, and each time I get chills. I mean, again,
yeah,
I really hate bringing you through this, and I feel so badly because you remember so much and so well. But again, the civilian world does not realize this is happening.
yeah.
And
Well,
on a holiday, on a national holiday, when the rest of us are enjoying our day because of people, men and women like you. And okay, I'll stop and let you do the last convoy there. Okay.
before we made the last run back to the green zone, I was talking to my guys and all the gun truck guys that were there. And we were physically exhausted. You got to understand, we defended a
Physically, I
base
mean, my
camp
golly.
and fought through, you know, we escorted 3 convoys so far, but understand we had already fought through 6 engagements,
Oh,
7 including the one at Biop, because we fought going in, we fought coming out, we
yeah.
fought going in, we fought coming out, we fought going in, we fought coming out. This is the 4th run, and I said, well, we're going to take the lead, and I watched some of these guys, tears going down their face.
Oh,
They were,
really?
yeah. And I looked at them and I said, you don't have to go if you don't want to go.
Oh, you
I
really
said,
said that?
I did. I said, you don't have
Oh,
to go. I said, we'll go without you.
what a leader.
And I'll never forget them looking at me and wiping their, these are 20-some-year-old kids,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
wiping the tears off their face. They're dirt. And they said, no, sir, we're with you. We're with you.
Oh,
And I said, let's go. And we went out the gate. And as we were driving, it was eerily quiet again.
okay.
But there was residue of the fighting going in and out.
Okay.
Everything you can imagine's out there on the road and on the side
Oh,
of the road. And as we're driving through, I remember hearing rat-a-tat-tat, and I could literally hear the whizzing of bullets going past your head. They sound like buzzing bees, like
oh,
zing,
really?
zing,
Oh, okay.
But, we turned around, we returned fire, and then we just kept going. So it was relatively light. And so when we picked up the fourth convoy, I remember looking at that, one of the soldiers that was driving the truck, and he says, we've been listening to the radio the whole time. We got to make one trip. Literally, this is going to be your 8th time through this
Yeah.
gauntlet.
Ugh.
And he just looked at me, and I'll never forget the look on his face. And he mouthed that he was like, thank you.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
you.
We're coming back together. So did you
Yeah.
remove everybody that was there early in the day when things seemed quiet?
Yeah, there was we moved 56 trucks of
Oh my
ammunition and
goodness.
supplies
Oh my golly.
with those 4 serials of
Okay.
14 trucks each. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Now,
So, yeah. And those were all 40-foot containers of everything you can imagine, from ammo to rockets to fuel,
yeah.
petroleum, all of that stuff that was needed. And the 1st Cavalry Division was in a bad spot at that point, and they needed to get it to the green zone to be able to delve it out to the rest of the division that was out there. It was,
It was
it was
good
a
about
heck of an
that.
accomplishment. It was a logistical feat, but it was a
It's
feat
a
of courage
miracle,
and
is what I
heroism.
call it, a Christmas miracle, as you've called it as well. I mean,
An Easter miracle.
an
Yeah,
Easter
Easter
miracle. That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, who could I possibly get other than you or somebody from, your crew to tell the story? And again, the importance of it all, and the reason why you actually, in our book, Guarding Our Guardians, about guaranteeing our veterans a future afterwards, you're the lead. Because what you start with your chapter is, here's what war is really like. It's not what we're seeing on TV, which is, a drone going over, particularly now, because we've got a lot going on the evening news, a drone going over and something exploding, but it doesn't really show what's happening on the ground. And
There was just some incredible feats of heroism,
I,
individual acts of heroism. Ohio, you all are full of heroes there. I
I,
mean,
I,
you
I
know,
think we are too. I really do. But I
yeah,
think every state has, the hero story, and none of them talk about it. None of them talk about it. And I will
yeah,
tell
Tom
you,
Butler and Tom Stewart and some of those others from the 1486 and the
uh-huh,
87th, and the people that I mentioned, Anthony Richardson, Ralph Blue, all of these people, they bled for this country, and they
yes.
gutted it out, and then they fought through all of this. And then, ironically, after we came back, we formed a specialized unit called the 518th Combat Gun Truck Company, U.S. Regulators,
Okay.
to do just what we did
Oh, wow.
all over Iraq. And all of these people followed me over there.
Yeah.
It was an incredible act of just. Listen, I can't say enough good about the soldiers. The leaders are not anything without good soldiers.
Yeah. But it
You
is
you
that
you have to
collective
have good
heroism.
soldiers.
But you have to have good leadership too. And I do think also, Kat McCormick, that a lot of people are wondering what leaders are like anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? Not just in the
Sure.
military, but
Yeah.
elsewhere too. And that's why I think your story is so important. And I so appreciate your telling us about it. And you not only tell us about it, but you've written several books, have you not? I mean, I've got a list here in front of me
Yeah. Yeah.
that we'll have listed that, and they're all available on Amazon, right?
Yep.
Okay, Battle Tested Faith, that was your first one. Strength
Yep.
in Struggles, Finding Hope and Restoration in Faith in God and Humanity. Huge, great way to start, right? A great place to start.
Yeah.
Then you have Steel in the Spine, the
Yep.
Advocate's Field Manual for Building Power, Protecting Integrity, and Advancing America First. And that was just came out the beginning of this year, right? January 7th, it says. And then the one I've got to get and start reading, Leadership Simplified, Hard Truths from
Yep.
a Life of Service. Your family represents that military gene, does it not? Like you have family. Tell us just a touch about that as we go through, because I think it
Yeah.
speaks to your genetic heroism, your genetic courage, your DNA that says, yeah, I'll go do this while everybody else is having, ham or
Yeah.
turkey and, a picnic breakfast as the sun comes up, Your whole
Well, we
family.
didn't.
Go ahead.
We didn't have any draft dodgers in the family because they would have drummed them out of the family for
They
sure.
would have. Oh, yeah.
They were, there was a level of pride and commitment to God and country that was always driven. My dad had three brothers. They all served in the Army. They were all in Vietnam, and they're all dead now as a result of Agent Orange.
Yeah.
My dad was the youngest to die at 52,
And that's
and the rest of them
exceptionally
never
high.
made it to the age of 70.
Yeah. It is
So
something, and
there's a
that's
sacrifice, yeah.
there's a sacrifice of a life changing totally. I mean,
Absolutely.
one of the things too that I think you mentioned and you touched on in the beginning, Captain McCormick, is you go through what you just explained, and you come back and there's somebody really upset because the light just turned green and you didn't just gun it. You sit there and
Yeah.
say, day to day life, how tough is it? How tough
Yeah.
are these things that we're treating as life and death that are so far from life and death that they can't even imagine it. And so I really appreciate your sacrifice today for reliving that as it's coming up. I mean, we have Easter this month, I'm
Praise
sure,
the Lord.
I'm sure that not an Easter goes by that y'all don't, kind of want to connect
Yeah.
with each other and say, can you imagine where we were at 4:00, Baghdad time? Where were we on this day? How long did everything last? From what time that you got started to what time you realized you had all kind of made it for the day?
So
I know
when
it
we
seemed
came
like
back,
eternity, but
yeah, well, everything started around 11 o'clock that morning.
okay.
By the time we got the last convoy in, it was probably around 7 o'clock at night. It was starting to
Oh,
get dark.
oh my golly.
Um,
The physical stamina,
yeah.
the mental stamina, the brain stamina, the spiritual
Mhm.
stamina, and all of that. I don't think that the majority of people on the planet know anything about. And I so appreciate your sharing it. So this is not my story today. This is my story of renewal, rebirth. My goodness, you all, I consider this story of resurrection after resurrection after. I mean, every time that you got from point A to point B, that was another resurrection, and you
Yeah.
kind of add new meaning to that classic Hollywood thing, From Here to Eternity, because you could have all been in eternity
Sure.
on that day, going from
Yeah.
here to there. So usually I end the podcast and I'll just
Mhm.
have a tagline after you. But what are you going to say to the families that are going to be watching this, to the young people that are going to be seeing this, to their parents? What lessons do you have for all of us? Because you have so many.
You know, after all of that went down, and when we finally got into the area, you see a picture on Soldier of Fortune of us standing under the
Yes.
cross sabers.
Yes.
We literally slept under those that night.
Oh,
I slept over there under those sabers that night.
oh,
And I remember that the sky was beautiful and it was filled with stars.
oh,
And I remember looking up and saying, God, thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know what I've done to deserve this, but I thought a lot about my home. And I would say to all of those that are home now, you're with your family, don't have a political argument. Don't
yeah.
have any arguments.
Yeah, that's
Come together for the true spirit of family gathering and love. Leave all of that in the car. Walk inside and truly appreciate the people that are there. Because my grandmother and my grandfather both died while I was over there. And my
oh,
grandmother
oh, I'm
was
so
the
sorry.
spiritual rock in our family.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know this, but if you read the book, you'll see I was raised by my grandmother and grandfather.
Mm.
And so when they died, it was like losing my mom and my dad. Um, and I couldn't go home to mourn them. But I remember the next day calling my granny and talking to her on the phone. And she says, "Oh, I've heard a lot of bad things. I hope you're okay." Well, a part of me wanted to just yell out and say, "I've had the worst
Yeah.
experience of my life."
Yeah.
But instead, I said, "Oh, no, Granny, it's all right. There's no problems here. We're in a base camp. We're safe."
Oh my golly.
And she was struggling to breathe. She had terrible emphysema at that time, and I just didn't want to upset her. So what I would tell people, you got those people that you love right now that have done good things for you in your life. Spend time with them. Don't don't ignore the opportunity to have interaction. If it's even just picking up the phone, call your mom, call your dad, call your grandparents, call your brother, call your sister, call
Mm-hmm.
your friends, but refuse to give a place of anger and bitterness in your heart, at least for that time period, okay?
That's wonderful.
And
Yes.
spend good quality time together, because a lot of good men and women have died to give you this freedom. Please, please don't waste it.
And that's what we call a wrap, because there's nothing I can add to that. Kat McCormick, I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting here fighting back tears myself during this particular thing. And I hate that I don't have a poker face, but thank you so much for all of that, for your continued service, for your eternal service. And we look forward to having you back again.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
If you are thinking about harming yourself or attempting suicide, tell someone who can help right away. Call 911 for emergency services. Go to the nearest hospital emergency room. Call or text 988 to connect with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. This podcast is made possible thanks to a grant from the Fred and June MacMurray Foundation, and it's produced by the Resurrecting Lives Foundation at the Sycamore Studio. Music is written, performed, and graciously provided by Tim Beckley. Remember, when you work toward brain injury recovery, it is best to journey with a friend and keep your gait steady and your spirit strong. Finally, always seek shelter from your storm.
Baghdad, the Basra, the Boston, the Bakersfield, the hottest battle I ever fought is raging inside of me. My brain has been battered, scrambled and rattled, and no one knows what's going on.